Welcome to Tech This Way.
Okay. Dato Wei, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Amran. Very
Thanks
happy to
for-
see you today.
Yeah, thanks for making the time.
Yes, I just wonder, this red color mic. Do you choose the color for today?
Of course, that was predetermined for since your history has something to do with red.
Yes, that's right. Red has been my background.
Yeah. So, anyway, thanks again for joining me today. Normally this lasts an hour, and I know you've got a bit of a deadline today. But there's so much that we can talk about as far as your own experience is concerned, right? Nothing to do with your age. It's just that you have a lot of rich experience. I don't know. So normally I just let you go as far back as you want to share with me your whole journey on this entrepreneurship world, lah.
Oh, wow. How many hours do you have?
A couple of hours if that's what you need.
I think we can pick one or two areas of interest. Yeah. Certainly, entrepreneurship is very much in my blood since a very young age because I actually grew up in a family whereby my dad and my mom, they actually operate that sundry supply in a wholesale format. So I used to even join the van sales to, all this.
Where was this?
In Kelantan.
Okay.
Yeah, so the van will travel to all the various small towns for us to sell all these supplies to the sundry shops.
I see. I guess it's based in Kota Bharu, lah.
Yes,
Then you would go out to
based
the-
in Kota Bharu, that's right. So I was actually given that kind of exposure back then. Interesting enough,
Nice.
my parents always say that when you grow up, whatever you may do, be professional, don't do this kind of business. Because it's tough life,
Yeah.
long hours, and it would get a lot of headaches in terms of managing the complexity with the people, with the customers, with the staff, with the stock tracking, with the weather, everything else. So it is actually a very tough life.
Right.
So, son, remember, do everything else except this business.
So everything else, even if you do another business, just don't do that business, lah.
Yes, that's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's fantastic, right? Even at that age, you're already exposed to the realities of being an entrepreneur, lah.
Yeah, that's right.
But it
Now,
sounds like you didn't listen to them, lah.
well, yes, I listened to them. So because of that, I wasn't in that so-called kedai runcit or the wholesale of the all these the supplies. And then I went into to be a career or a professional in the technology space after my graduation
Where did you graduate from?
from UTM
Okay.
in electrical engineering
Right.
in 89. That I guess will give away my age.
Okay. A few years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Just a few years ago, plus. Then I actually went to join HP. Back then I was quite lucky because that was a time where economy began to recover, and then I had quite a few offers from the Intel, from AMD, from HP, which is a sales office, and then of course that was the time that personal computer was beginning to boom.
Right.
Mini computers and the workstations were still very much in use in a lot of industries.
Yeah.
So I actually entered the industry during the era.
Okay. Those
Yeah.
were the days of the IBM, the big IBM machines and the one
That's
computer
right.
and all that, lah.
That's right. I think one thing I really appreciate is also the exposure to company from Silicon Valley like HP, because they are the founding company of Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
When you go to the garage in Silicon Valley, it is labeled there. It's a birthplace of Silicon Valley. So I see that, the vision and the passion of two co-founders, they were the entrepreneurs, that has actually spawned not just a good company, but the entire industry. That has changed not only the economy of the local people, but also the country and also to the world. So that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration from.
So you were into the tech space right from the start, lah. So after the degree, you got into HP, and then what happened to you?
Yeah, and then 5 years later, I think in HP, I was perhaps considered myself to be one that is fortunate because I have also shown a lot initiative. So I moved from the technical support to the sales and marketing in a form of account management, and then the global account and major account management. So that actually gives the very broad exposure. And I also did the additional management, diploma in management at that point in time.
Right.
Those days, to do MBA and all this, it's
an
wasn't
American
quite
thing
easy.
not a Malaysian thing
So
for sure,
I thought that I was very happy to go through that program and therefore have appreciation of the entire spectrum of the roles of management, plus also exposure in industry. So then that was the foundation to start a business.
Okay.
5 years later.
Right. What did you do?
Well, together with 2 other co-founders, we actually started business in software development and subsequently to turn into product, which is in a convergent area. Of course, as an entrepreneur, we always look out for the gap in the marketplace. The gap would also mean either the problems or the new phenomena that could give rise to opportunities. And at that point in time, it was a convergence of computer and telephony. Everyone was on the line, and then, they call someone. There's a problem when someone is not at the desk, so you need to leave a voice message. So then we did that first product, software, hardware, we designed the entire thing. So in other words, we own the product, the IP, the entire design of how to go to market and how to position the market. Very quickly with the first product, within the first 2 to 3 years, we were the largest provider for voicemail. Please don't laugh, voicemail. Back then it was very canggih, very sophisticated.
What was the name of this company?
It was VMS Technology, voicemail system.
Right.
And then subsequently we renamed to Redtone.
That was the birth of Redtone, essentially.
That's right.
But if you go back to HP, right? So you've got a fairly good career going, right?
Yes.
5 years in. What made you decide with your friends, okay lah, let's let go of this and be a businessman or be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, the way multinational companies work, they are very efficient, and that's perhaps a very nice way to describe. In a way, actually, every year, if I use a bit of different word, if you perform well, you'll be punished. Punished simply because, in a nice way, of course, you get increment, you get higher bonus, and you get much higher quota.
Right.
So in order to enjoy the higher incentive, you need to do a lot better than the previous year.
Right.
Right.
So the target keeps going up.
Yes, keep going up. Not proportionate to
the compensation.
That's right.
It feels like it lah. Okay.
Yeah, I must say that I was pretty well paid, and I was very happy about it. And I just thought that perhaps there's a chance to make a difference if I were to do it somewhere outside.
Right.
Yeah.
So how was the technology landscape at that point in terms of entrepreneurs, right? I'm sure it wasn't like today, right? There's a startup. You throw a rock out there, you'll hit a startup, right? In the mid 90s, was the environment as conducive to setting up your own thing?
No, it wasn't. In fact, my parents were not so-called supportive. They feel that I think it's better that I have a stable career, well-paid job, and but then we thought that the idea is very compelling to own our product. Because I can see that owning a product and then to sell, not just in a local country, but to, voicemail was sold to 40 countries just within the 3 years. So I thought that, having that kind of possibility is very exciting. So we say, okay, put all the life saving inside there. It's also not a lot. It's just 100,000.
Yeah. It was a lot then. A lot even today, to be honest.
That was entire life saving.
So how many of you when you set up VMS?
3 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, and then subsequently, I must say that I want to recognize and also appreciate my old HP friend that has turned entrepreneur. He's Lee Eng Sia, that has given us the support as an angel investor. So I fully recognize that, the role of angel investor that gave us the kind of support due to trust. I had a meeting with him for about 45 minutes to describe about our idea, how it can be so different and so exciting. And the way it's positioned in the marketplace would mean a huge opportunity, right? Guess what? After spending our 100,000, and that after speaking to him for 45 minutes, he asked me how much do we need. We said, to go to market in a much more significant way, we need 1.4 million ringgit.
So did he fall off his chair?
1.4, 1.5. Is it okay? When do you need it? Then very soon, a week later, the money came in.
Nice.
That is the power of that kind of angel investment with trust. The trust link. I think that's where I must emphasize that this day is maybe a bit hard to come by. Yeah, because I think we know that coming from a similar background, there is this common values being trained in the organization, and also the wish to really better our life and better the life of the others. So the trust is there.
So if you look back, what was it about the three of you that made him trust you?
Oh, okay. I did share a little bit about this. Trust usually also mean that we have to be trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
And to be trustworthy, and I like to quote what Stephen Covey has used because I find it to be so relevant even until today. It must consist of two things that one can demonstrate: the character and the competencies. You know, someone may be very good in the character, they may be very honest and all this. You ask them to do something, if they cannot do it, they don't have the competency to do it. Do you think that is a trustworthy person that you can entrust a big task to?
Not really lah.
Not
Yeah,
really.
no point,
But if someone who is highly competent, but then can take our money and run away,
also not a good thing, yeah.
yes. So therefore, you need two things to come together: character and competency. Then that makes a person trustworthy.
Yeah.
So the trustworthiness then could then translate into speed, the speed of decision. Because I trust one phone call, whatever it is, then people say, hey, okay, this is what you need, this is what I can provide. Boom.
Go.
Yeah, go.
So how was the early journey of VMS?
The early journey, first 3 years was really good because we grew from the first year, 1.4 million turnover. Or the investment was 1.5 million. But the first year turnover was 1.4 million. For a startup, I mean,
Wow.
to be fair, it's not exactly 1 year because the first year was purely for product development. It was actually second year. But it's the first year of commercialization. Then second year was 3 million turnover. Third year was 8 million. And then fourth year was the financial crisis. No, .com crash. Okay, now that gave us such a very strong feeling that we could do something much bigger. That we got carried away.
But obviously this was before the crash lah. At that point,
Before the
you were
crash.
sitting on 8 million revenue the year. And,
Yes.
the sky's the limit lah.
Yeah, that's why we thought that okay, we could do anything.
Who was your customers at that point?
Oh, all the phone providers. The names are the Panasonic, the NEC, the Lucent, the Nortel, the Ericsson, the Siemens.
so all these
the phone
guys-
system, the voicemail system, you can actually connect a third-party product.
I see.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a voice
They,
mail system themselves.
some of them they have,
Right.
not all. And then whatever the system that they have tend to be a lot more expensive. Now, we actually incorporate new technology at that point in time.
Right.
That was actually the digital signal processing, but implemented in a manner that is totally software driven. And then the processor, not the DSP processor that is actually expensive, but it was actually at that point in time, the PC processor, the 386, the 486, that was powerful enough already. So it's largely software driven. We design our own voice card. We have a lot of functionality, a lot of new benefits, and very low cost. Because of that, we can sell almost like double the so-called capabilities at half the price.
So it was the sweet spot lah.
It was a sweet spot. We had a winning product. But that, confidence also almost killed us.
So what happened?
Yeah. We said, okay, now maybe it's time to develop much more sophisticated product for a wider use. That means we want to incorporate not just voicemail, we want to put email, we want to put fax mail, we want to put directory service, we want to put phone service and IP telephony all in one server. We call it communication server. Total enterprise communication server. we didn't take a single cent of money out. We poured all the money inside there. And MSC was also launched during that time.
Right.
96, 97, 98, we received R&D grant. That was a very sizable grant of 3.2 million ringgit to fund 70% of the R&D costs.
Yeah.
So, of course, we put in all our money plus a grant. Then we recruited a lot of people. Our R&D workforce at that point in time was about 50 over people.
Wow. And this is a 3-year-old company.
Yeah, that's right.
At that point.
Yes.
Or maybe
So
3-4
you can imagine
years,
it was a very ambitious move. We had R&D engineer from France. We have people from Singapore, from India, and of course a lot of Malaysian who actually came back from overseas as well, right? Some PhDs and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And
So what could go wrong?
Yeah.
And the idea for the solution itself makes sense, right?
Yes, it makes sense. Only thing is the product was way ahead of its time. So then subsequently, I must say this is a big learning. Timing is everything. It's not just about good product. We had the earlier good product. The timing was right.
Yeah.
The subsequent product, the product was not perfect. Any new technology, IP telephony and whatnot, it will take time before the technology becomes mature.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a very strong customer acceptance at that point in time. So we need a bit more time to refine that product, right? To go through the maturity curve. And .com crash, year 2000.
Yeah.
The whole world went into recession. And with that recession, a lot of companies retrench people, and they have a lot of extra capacity in their email servers, extra capacity in their phone capacity. They don't need to buy any new equipment. We couldn't find the
They will
users.
just repurpose lah.
Yeah. So we, at the point in time, had only the cash, despite VC investment, despite corporate investment, we had the cash to last us for only 6 months.
Okay.
And with that, we were confronted with a reality that we're going to have to call it a day. So a few of us and thought that we need to take a very decisive action on this. How do we reduce costs and increase revenue and increase cash inflow? Right. So to stop the bleeding, we need to, at the point in time, we had 100 over people. We need to reduce almost like 65% of people. And then keep only 1/3. So at the end, we from 100 over people, the size reduced to 60 over people.
Right.
And then to repurpose a communication server to become a smart call server. Okay. This is where we constantly look at where is the pain point in the marketplace. .com crash is one thing. Recession is another thing. And the industry is actually continue to want to save costs, right? Corporate want to save costs. You look at the top 3 items in any of top 5 items in the normal P&L. They have office rental, they have the what they call that, the headcounts.
Staff costs.
Yeah, then they have a phone bill.
Right.
So we can help them reduce the phone bill. That was the birth of discounted call or VoIP call.
Right.
We'll repurpose that and connect to their phone lines to route the phone calls to our server and out to any destination, be it domestic, long distance, or overseas.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, there's another segment which is the foreign workers. The foreign workers need to make a call back to, let's say, Bangladesh. 1 minute used to cost them almost 5 ringgit. We sold at 350 and still be very profitable and still make 1 ringgit per minute.
Yeah.
We're talking about back then in 2001. Yeah. So with the call shop, we really proliferate that.
Right.
That was a very major turnaround.
And by this
To
time,
reposition-
it was red tone lah.
Yeah, we have called it red tone since 1999.
Right.
1999, year 2000. Yeah. So this is how we reposition the company. But then the 6 months while we reposition the company and also to relaunch the product, we didn't know whether we could make it or not. So then we had a very rigorous program. Everyone would be on very severe pay cut. As an entrepreneur, I didn't take much pay anyway. I was taking like 1/3 of the pay that I used to get. And then we set a 6 months target in terms of our revenue and also collection. We must hit both revenue and the collection in order to get our pay. Anything, one of the items short of that, then everybody 10% reduction of the pay. Because you figure out that after 6 months, assuming if we don't achieve any of those target, there's no more pay to cut anyway. So,
so this is real for everybody, right?
Oh yes.
This is not just management will decide for us whether we get it. No, everybody will feel it every month.
Oh yes, everybody. And then every day we actually publish how many new customers or who are the customers, and also how is the revenue. We got to track with the data. So that's why you see managing using data is so important. We must make it very visible, so everyone know that, hey, the collection for today is X dollars. Right? How far are we from our monthly target? Right? Everyone must do sales. Everyone must do collection. And of course, the R&D must work day and night to repurpose the server, to come up with a billing system, to come up with a tracking system. Then first month came. We achieved the
target,
revenue and the collection. Second month, we continue to achieve that. Third month, we continue to achieve that. And then that momentum carried on for 6 months. And from there, the momentum became so strong already. Then the company officially become a discounted call company.
Right.
Yeah. And then the revenue from the, crisis year of 8 million, then we did 12 million, then we did 14 million, then we did 30 million, we did 80 million, then 160 million, and that was the time that we listed the company.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the early days.
And your early days wasn't even in the span of that many years, right? You're looking at about 10 years?
We listed the company after 8 years.
Wow, that is really amazing.
Yeah.
Even, and especially in those days, right? Coming out from the dot-com bust.
Yes.
Right, when that's it lah. I mean, everybody had to start again. Nobody wants to go into the tech business again after that, right? In terms of investment, right?
Right, yeah.
So,
we listed in 2004. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So then 2004 you listed. So okay lah. So finally the big pay cuts and all that. The compensations came back lah. So
then of course we of course get a kind of big payback lah.
Yeah, right. But again, at every point, it was either you could continue or completely stop, right? Especially the
yes. It was very real that we thought that, okay, maybe we have to start thinking about what to do after 6 months. Yes. Yeah. And especially when you can see that 2/3 of the people are gone, the feeling was like so down. How to pick ourselves up, right? I think that was actually very difficult time, On one hand, you need to have morale of the people to be all like up again, right? On the other hand, they see that, it's actually not so encouraging at all. And the macro picture is really not encouraging at all. So we need to find ways to survive. I think survival is a one big push for us.
And I guess that transparency that you provided for everybody to see, right?
Oh yes, that's right.
That helps, right?
Yeah, because everyone need to be on the same boat.
Yeah. And I think the problem with sometimes large companies is there is that lack of transparency, right? Sometimes you wonder what management decisions are based on because you don't really see what's really going on, right? When it's so flat like that and so obvious, well, it's either I work for my pay or I don't contribute, I don't get. Right?
Yeah. The macro picture at that point in time was that you can be very transparent. Perhaps there's no threat of people leaving simply because if anyone were to leave, there's also the great difficulty in finding any other job, right? Yeah, we might as well make this ship sail together.
Yeah. Did you lose anyone? Any of the 60 odd people?
No. During that point in time, no.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And in fact, I still recall we had employee 001. In fact, it's like a co-founder, right? That has stayed true in the company until today.
Wow, that's loyalty, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So how was life? How was the company different before and after IPO?
Oh, after IPO, then we had more resources and we continued the growth. Yeah, and then went into consumer sectors and so on. And the good time didn't last that long.
Okay. The adventure continues lah.
Yes, the adventure continues. Now, of course, at a much bigger scale, armed with a lot more resources, then it would be very different ball game. Because this kind of call came to the almost the sunset. Towards after the 2006. The mobile phone sector, mobile services become more competitive, a lot of price cut, and then overseas call became very cheap, and now it's free. Right? So we can see it writing on the wall. Yeah. So there was a need to reposition the company to become broadband and data service provider.
Okay.
And there's a need to be selective for the corporate sector and the government sector. And that business stay on until today in Red Tone, even though I'm no longer in Red Tone. Yeah. And then the other one was also to move into government sector, especially to do the rural what they call infrastructure, like towers or base stations, right? That was actually more of the government job from the MCMC, right? So yeah, we need to develop new capabilities for that, and that also become today one of the major contributor to Red Tone, as I understand. And then, as far as I'm concerned, there was this general offer made to Red Tone that was in 2015. Yeah, so most of the shareholders have actually accepted the general offer.
Right.
Yeah, and then I stayed on
Another
on the
year
board
or so.
until 2016. Yeah, mid of 2016. Then thereafter, then I left and then continued to do. Since I actually have been the beneficiary of the angel investment from trusted friend, I thought that one way is also to reciprocate by giving some startups that kind of opportunity to really realize hopefully a greater potential that they could foresee, and therefore I then have been doing angel investment since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we go into the second lease of life lah in the angel investing world for you, one last question on your corporate life. So how did you see your own change in terms of management style from the day you were a founder? So obviously you had to be very hands-on, right? To the company growing, now you have a bigger army under you, and then you went public, even bigger and more resources, as you said, right? How has your own personal management changed throughout that journey, right? From a founder to CEO chairman at the end.
Yeah. Thanks. The change is actually an informed change.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Informed in a sense that we know that at various stages, and of course, personally, I've been reading quite a bit, and then also getting a lot of exposure through the Young President organization and various organization, and also I was in PICOM in the council and also the chairman. So certainly, I am well aware of the need of the different management style, as well as the capabilities at the various stages of the company. Growth stage or startup stage, growth stage, mature stage, and rejuvenate stage, and all this, and turnaround stage. I'm actually pretty aware of that. So when I have a chance to bring in the other professionals in the team, and quite deliberately, I actually choose to be quite hands-off.
So
then,
at which stage did you realize, okay, I need to trust other people with your baby? What point was that transition?
trusting our people has been happening from day one. From day one. So it is not like at every stage. But hands off is another thing. Hands off would be more after the listing.
Right.
Because after the listing, there have been a lot of involvement in the investor relation.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of time spent outside the business. Yeah. Simply because the stakeholders become very varied and very diverse. And to be able to take care of the stakeholders, I just find that it's not easy to delegate.
Right.
That's where professional management, the other partners that will continue to run the company, while I enjoy in the more of a management of the stakeholders, as I can relate to them, and also I like to learn about how fund management work, how some of the strategic so-called trend out there, or some of the mega trend and so on, how we can be more strategic about it, right? And therefore, from there, I actually venture out to the international so-called investment of the company, that namely in the China as well as in Pakistan. So Pakistan, we didn't have that kind of good experience, and that wasn't successful.
Yeah.
So we got to pull back. And then China was a successful example, and we had a very good run for almost 10 years. Yeah, after listing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
I tend to spend a lot more time and energy outside and looking at a big macro picture and participate at the strategy level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I enjoyed that.
Okay. I guess it's a natural progression, lah. You're saying from a founder that's hands-on with the operations and day-to-day growth
Yeah.
to a point when now you bring in the professionals to operate, well then you can start looking at the bigger picture, lah. Right? Cool. Okay, so now let's get back to your more fun part after that, I guess.
Is that so more fun?
2016, roughly, you step down.
Yeah.
And then, what are you going to do with yourself? So you decided to start investing. How did that journey go?
A few things that I did. First of all, I always enjoy learning. So I've been very active in the YPO, local chapter, as well as the international, what they call the different part of the organization, from the industry network to the regional grouping. So I actually have been joining a lot of learning events, literally around the world. Yeah. And I do read up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I come across interesting ideas, I like to kind of start, putting some test and some investment into this. So back then we can see that the growing trend was in the IoT, was in AI, and also in the health tech, and of course more traditional business like mobile services, mobile content. These were some of the areas.
Yeah.
So I thought, I could actually meddle into some of those areas, by putting some investment. And bear in mind that during the Red Tone time, the Red Tone has also spun off quite a few companies along the way.
Right.
So some of those have also grown. And because the people whom I also know, they asked me to co-invest with them subsequently.
Yeah.
So I also made investment. So because of that, the investment tend to be of a smaller ticket to a bigger ticket. Yeah, some bigger ticket I have invested like 3 million per ticket item. Some like $500,000.
Right.
So it's actually pretty sizable. It's not like angel investment like 50, 100,000 range.
Not
right?
like seed or pre-seed.
Yeah, it's
investment.
not so much of that. Yeah. So, and also I tend to choose areas that I could add value, and then I find that kind of joy in adding value.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ask me to go into manufacturing this what they call the red color wrapper for the mic, maybe I may not have interest.
Yeah. So I guess that's important, right? You need to have a bit more of you need to have a passion in the investments that you make, lah. So that and it's relevant.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with understanding the different types of technologies that these guys will come up to you with? Hey, Dato Wei,
Oh
this
wow,
one here.
I enjoy learning. So learning is the one that keep me going, and I feel very energized by that. Yeah. So because of that, all the different so-called companies that I put some investment in, they could be at the different stages, and then some of my friends in Silicon Valley suggested that, hey, why don't you look at putting them into a fund, of which is your personal VC fund, for example.
Yeah.
So that was a way of doing that. And then subsequently, more recently, it's like whether it makes sense to create a SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Company, right? Yeah. But anyway, I think it's not at that size. And then 3-4 years ago, I also have experimented with the ICO. initial coin offering.
That was
on
the boom a few
blockchain.
years
That
ago,
was
yeah.
I look at into that during the tail end of the boom. So
Before the
didn't-
regulators all jumped in.
yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work for me.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, but from that kind of involvement, then I have a chance to learn about blockchain, about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, and so-called distributed community or decentralized community, and so forth. And of course, that whole blockchain world and technology has also evolved so much right now. Yeah. So that is another big topic on its own.
Yeah.
So because of that involvement in all the different areas, I then tend to also get involved in understanding some of the component technology, how it works and where it's applicable, and how it can make impact in the industry, in a community, or in a country. So that has helped me a lot in my role in the national service as well.
Okay. So we'll go into the national service in a minute. I wanted to go back to your own view with all your investments that you've done so far, right? The successes and the failures in there, right? If there is another new startup or founder who goes up to you today, right? So based on your experience, what would you like to share with those guys, right? The things they need to do, the things they should stop doing.
So far, I seeing all the different businesses. I think in the first place, what I'll tell them is I would not, at the early stage, right? I will not rely on business plan. The last thing to rely on is the business plan and the financial projection. Because everyone will give you a financial projection that looks like exponential curve, right?
The hockey stick lah.
The hockey stick, right? And in reality, none of them will actually present a hockey stick kind of growth.
Yeah.
My personal experience, and also in quite a few other companies that I was directly involved, has not shown such a curve. And in fact, globally also he has not. Maybe you stretch the curve in some highly exceptional companies, yes, you may see that, but most of the companies will see all kind of
ups and downs,
along the way.
Yeah.
So I could safely say that people will be the number one factor. That means the capability of people, that the strong values and enthusiasm, or sometimes they call it passion, right? I think that has to play a very important part, right? Because in order to be able to trust that investee, trust, then the party has to be trustworthy. So back to be trustworthy, the person must have the character and also the competencies. Yeah.
So it sounds like you are investing in those people as opposed to the great brilliant idea and technology that they bring to you then.
Yes. There are some investment that may not seem like working like 5 years ago in startup of electric cars in Europe, and they're going IPO this year. So you see that ride was so bumpy along the way. At any point in time, they could have closed down. Yeah. But it's the perseverance of the people. People can go on for months and even 1-2 years without pay, and the whole family will support them, knowing that they yearn for that breakthrough. They yearn for that success for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I see that to be a great example of what the startup or founders should do, right? Because otherwise, people like the kind of cozy environment, aircon, everything, nicely planned for, and then money all come, easy life. I'm not sure how much would that help to mold that strong character of a person to have the resilience towards facing adversities.
Yeah. In your investments so far, I don't know if you mind sharing, what have been the more memorable ones, companies that you have invested in? Memorable, positive or negative? You don't have to name names if you don't want to, but just to get a sense of the kind of companies that you've gone through.
Okay. I think the European company that since I've quoted already, I find that even though these were the young professor who came from the university, but they really have that kind of spirit, the fighting spirit, that spirit to persevere. I can see it through when the first time they presented So they had a prototype
Right.
that has got a little bit of a mention somewhere as they won some recognition. So they said they wanted to have some money. So I put in money early. I think these are some of the examples whereby if you talk about monetary return, it's going to return in many fold more than your investment. I have also seen some, they may come from a very illustrious so-called background in terms of where they graduated from, and also where they may have worked before. They, that may look like fantastic on CV, and then the energy level is not there as a startup, because there's the need to be able to embrace the uncertainty, go through the very difficult time, and persevere long hours. I'm not asking everyone to try to kind of go through a hardship unnecessarily, but there will be time whereby startup will not have all the resources, because you don't have the army of 10,000 people under your command, right? So you need to do a lot of things yourself, and you need to find that you can enjoy doing it despite, all this uncertainty and long hours and whatnot. So I find that, those are not very memorable, but it's a big learning for me. The other more important so-called consideration for investment is also timing. Because let's say, timing for some technology or some application may not be ready due to, say, ecosystem. Right. Let's say if someone were to go into 5G application. Any form of 5G application that uses the core strength of 5G. 5G has 3 characteristics. One is ultra high bandwidth. That means up to 1 gig of bandwidth. Number 2 is that it's massive machine-to-machine connectivity, where it can connect 1 million devices in 1 square kilometers. That is actually the design of 5G.
Right.
And 5G is capable of connecting 1 million devices.
Wow.
Right. And then also the third so-called characteristic or feature is that it's ultra low latency. That means from base station, point to point, right? The latency is like less than through the wireless, and then transmit through the fiber. It's like less than 0.01 or 0.03 second. Very low latency, such that you can do remote surgery. You can have a surgeon and then remote robotic arm, and whatever you actuate here on the so-called remote side, the robot will receive it right away and do the so-called whatever surgery move while you are seeing the 4K video. So that means the 4K video and the movement and where it cuts. Right?
Almost no delay.
No delay. It must be real time. So these are the 3 characteristics. Let's say anyone were to say that I want to have an application that utilize all these 3 things in one go right now and expect to have good business, then the timing is too early. Right? You need to perhaps be patient to see through, maybe let the technology be implemented and mature, and then perhaps 3 to 5 years down the road. Right? But some of the early application that utilize the bandwidth, that is okay. Right? I can see, let's say, some of the virtual reality on the live event, let's say sports live event using the live 360 camera. I think this is really coming to become a big thing. Right? And then the technology can support that in the next 1 year or 2. So it is not too early in a curve. Right? So timing is very important. And then, of course, too late, where there are a lot of players already, unless you can do it much better and cheaper. Me Too is okay, no? Me Too is perfectly alright, as long as the model itself allow you to have the kind of a key strength against any other offerings out there.
Are there any specific new tech or new areas that you're excited about right now?
Wow. I'm actually watching the area on a space technology. Because space technology has got remote sensing. There are a lot of eyes on the sky, literally. And then our ground, our earth, our formation actually emits a lot of information. Right? So all this can be analyzed. It can give rise to new insights, new planning, new opportunities. That's one interesting one. Less explored today, right? So navigation. So because combining the space and the ground, that becomes a very powerful combination.
Right.
We'll come to that lah.
Okay.
And then the other one is a green technology lah.
Mm.
And towards green technology means it must connect with the agri-tech. It must connect with also nature, right? So that part, green, space, and some of these are interesting areas in my mind.
Right.
Though I've not gone I may kind of dabble a little bit here and there, but not in a big way.
So last question on these investments that you make. You just mentioned, you don't dabble too much into it. But for the ones you have invested in, how much time do you bug these guys in terms of their day-to-day operations? You call them at 2 a.m. Hey, I've got an idea for you guys, do this. Or are you like, okay, I trust you, like your initial investor?
Wow. Yeah, I think largely is on trust lah. Largely, yeah. Of course, we will catch up among some of the investees company. Some are like the partners that started this one. I joined in. Quite a few of them would expect me to be involved in the business in a more so-called involved manner, and I try not to. Because I think it's not to do. I would not be able to do justice if I'm not able to dedicate the time.
Although you mentioned that you do want to invest in companies that you can add value yourself beyond just the funding.
Yeah, but add value doesn't mean running it. It's very different. More so right now, I think my attention span is quite fragmented, so it's unfair, right, to hold any position without being able to be there.
So you mentioned so your time spent a bit fragmented, and you also mentioned that you are starting to do a lot more national surveys if you like. Do share what do you mean? What are the areas that you
that seems to be quite a big topic. How are we doing?
We are time-wise? Just about 50 minutes.
Okay.
So we've got another 15-20 minutes if you want to go.
All right. Yeah. So just to briefly touch on.
Sorry, I'm just making sure. Okay. We can go on until about say 2 o'clock.
Yeah, sure. I think that'll be very nice. One of the I think more important current role is to serve on this National Council of Digital Economy and for IR, for Industrial Revolution. That's chaired by the PM. The secretariat is with EPU. So last month, the Prime Minister has just launched My Digital, which is the Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint. It is a 10-year blueprint. And this is the first time, I believe, because, I'm fortunate to grow in the backyard of MSC. You recall, we started the business in 96, and
when that was
during
launched,
that year, MSC was launched, and then Red Tone at that point in time went in to apply, and indeed we were one of the founding MSC status companies.
Okay.
And so much of the involvement with the MDC back then, and subsequently MDEC, and of course time also changed with all the different CEOs, and initially was the executive chairman, subsequently the various CEOs along the way, and coming from the industry, quite a few CEOs were also my ex-colleague.
Okay.
From HP days. Surprisingly.
Or not surprisingly
or not surprisingly. And what we could see is that MSC, while it evolves over time, it hasn't been like a whole nation approach. Right?
It was Cyberjaya and Projaya
of course, the early days, there were a lot more so-called intensity based on location. Subsequently, that has also expanded to include the the digital inclusion and a few other initiatives, right? And then the pillars that has been talked about will be like digital talent, and then R&D, creative industry,
Yeah.
and so forth, right? All have been well and good throughout the years. Now, this is the first time where the country would be able to benefit from that foundation that has been laid throughout the last many years, 20 over years, to launch a whole nation approach
Okay.
in transforming our country. Whole nation approach here would mean everybody in the society, all industries, and all government agencies, all ministries embarking on that digital journey. Right. So to be able to achieve some of the important goals, 6 strategic trusts have been put in place. The first one is the digital government.
Okay.
We have been hearing about, of course, our e-government and so forth for many years already.
Yeah.
And we find that in terms of the ICT or digital adoption in the various government agencies, they are there, and some will do a lot more than others. Now, one key so-called experience have been that the data have been sitting with all the various ministries.
Yeah.
And quite often, there's no mechanism to share. And the processes may not be streamlined.
Yeah.
So each ministry, each agency still operate very much on its own, right? While may be highly automated, right? So digital government here means that, first of all, is to put all the government data on cloud. In these 2 years, the target is to put 80% of the data on cloud. And then when the data are made available on cloud, then you see the big data analysis, a lot of correlation would make sense. And then the processes can be streamlined. And in 5 years, 100% of government data shall be on the cloud.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And along with this also, there must be a very rigorous initiative and effort to protect those data.
Yeah, of course. That goes.
Yeah. So
without saying.
therefore, the cybersecurity and all this, so it will bring the new capabilities
Yeah.
to the government.
Okay.
And to have the government to fully embrace and utilize the power of the kind of digital and in the digital transformation, literally all the government staff will have to be trained or retrained in the use of the digital tools and facilities. So can you imagine when all our civil servants are digitally more competent? So that can be a very major driving force, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the digital government. Second part is actually digital infrastructure. I think perhaps we would have to also imagine that it is an intensive build-up of the digital infrastructure. Fiber optics, towers, and then moving on to 5G. You have heard of Jandela, with the 21 billion of the fund from both the government as well as the private sectors towards building our infrastructure, digital infrastructure, such that everyone can be connected.
Yeah.
In the city as well as all the remote areas, right? And then to be connected in that manner that is with a high capacity, with a lot of fiber backhaul, then it would then enable all this what they call it, online education, online healthcare, and all the rest of the agencies, right?
Yeah.
Could actually utilize the power of the digital services.
Because once that
Digital
backbone has been
infrastructure.
set up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now the third strategic trust, it is about digital workforce.
Okay.
So you find that a lot of allocation under all this from Prihatin to Penjana and moving on a lot more, which is also to retrain and to upskills a lot of current workforce, and also to make digital talent available to the whole community, to the industry, to the government as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of training, a lot of education, upskilling. It is expected that in the next 5 years, 500,000 digital jobs, digital talents will be required.
Right.
Yeah.
With all our graduates and
Yes. The fourth area will be the digital economy. That all the businesses, literally across all the industries, would have to look into their own journey of digital transformation. So in the Penjana and so forth, you find that there are a lot of grants, a lot of automation, a lot of what they call digitalization, from grant to assistance, adoption program are being put in place or are already in place, waiting for more take up, right? And that will continue because here we're talking about 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So digital economy, it is a lot more relating to across all other industries because government has got a specific digital government initiative.
Yeah.
Right? And the next one is a digital community or the society. You see, how do we benefit as a citizen, right? Then this is where the cashless payment, the e-wallet that you try to use this now.
Yeah.
And
it didn't work.
Well, it got to work more robust, in a more robust manner.
Yeah.
And then also digital ID. You see, today, our identity, right? We say that we still use the IC to register and so on, right?
Yeah,
Can you imagine our digital ID that's tied to all our biometrics features, right? So anywhere you go, the API of any organization, they can connect to the digital ID. So then you can be authenticated that Amran is Amran, Wei is Wei, right?
Yeah.
I cannot simply take your IC, change to my face, right? Because it doesn't work that way. Everything will be in a way authenticated through the digital ID. So this is also an important foundation for a digital society, along with cashless capabilities and so on. All right. Lastly, is about the emerging technology that our country need to be able to evaluate and select some of those emerging technology, be it either nanotechnology, AI, IoT or blockchain or drone or 3D printing or whatnot that will be suitable for our country in the context of our industry, in the context of our lifestyle, our people and so on. So while these emerging technologies are being evaluated, there's the need to actually allow the chance for the technology to be put into use. And some of them may touch on certain changes of regulation. So that changes of regulation may not happen overnight. Let's say relating to healthcare, relating to education, and relating to many other sectors, transportation, that requires that a lot of law and act to be changed, right? That will take too long. So the emerging technology could be given a sandbox such that in the confined area, then they can operate without that specific license. Right? So still, these are the 6 strategic trusts, and hopefully, with all of our involvement together over the next 10 years, we have a chance to see that Malaysia could become technologically and digitally very well adopted society, that our economy is well developed, our people have better life, our industries become a lot more competitive, our government become a lot more efficient. So it's a better life for you and me and everyone.
I mean, okay, so you're obviously not part of the government, right? So
I'm
you're
not part of the government.
right?
That's right.
And I know you're not a mouthpiece for them either, lah. So how, and it's not new, right, that our government comes up with another master plan, another roadmap, right? And I think, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people like myself can be a little skeptical, right? That there is nothing wrong with the strategy itself or the roadmap itself per se. It's fantastic. Whatever you've told me sounds good, great even, and something we should be doing. But our skepticism has always been in the execution, right? So from your view, outside what you've just said, right? What needs to happen for it to get done?
It requires that strong commitment of I use the word leadership. It doesn't refer to one person. Because, quite often we say, hey, there must be a political will or there must be a commitment from the leader. And we must expand the definition of leadership to every one of us. We are leaders in our own right. You are a leader in the ethical digital, right? You are a leader in the digital industry. You are a leader in the banking industry. I'm leader in my own right. And then, you know, how many leaders are there in a country?
Quite a lot.
I broadly say 1 million leaders. Why? Why do I say so? You know, in the government, we have many ministries. If you take the top 3 layers of any of those agencies and ministries, they are considered leaders because they have to drive a lot of things. If I were to include the state as well and the state agencies, so this group of leaders will come to about 100 to 200,000.
Okay.
For now, I say 100,000.
Okay.
From the government sector, right? Now, private sectors, there are 900 over 1,000 companies, mostly micro companies, about 700,000, about 200 over 1,000 SMEs. You know, each SME will have at least how many? 3%, right? So 3% out of 250,000, there will be 750,000 leaders who are in all form of SMEs.
Who can help drive this also,
Yes.
you're saying?
Okay. And then the rest will be from large companies, GLCs. In Bursa, we have 1,000 plus listed companies. Each company has got their shareholders, have their board members. Each company has got, let's say, how many? 10, 20 or
Board
50,
members?
right?
Plus execution, yeah.
Yes,
Management
plus
team.
execution leaders. There'll be easily another 100,000 people. So if I add up, the number will come to 1 million leaders in a country. So the 1 million leaders will have to take charge and take their responsibility and go forth to adopt digitalization. The step towards a better organization starts from the leaders. To make investment, to make the kind of call, to take risks, to train the people, to recruit the people who have the right digital talents, it has to start from leaders themselves.
Yeah.
So I would like to call upon our leaders, 1 million leaders, you and I included, to be part of this journey. And if we can do that, then it could have a chance to see the success one day, since it is a 10-year journey, right? And lastly, I'm hoping to actually organize this, what they call it, some kind of pledge system. It's called Aku Janji, right? As a leader of my organization, I pledge that I want to actually seek a better outcome, a better business, what they call that, growth, and better life for our people by adopting digitalization. So that is a kind of a campaign that could actually start in the near future.
All right. Okay. Well, in fact, it's a good way to close this off with your call for everybody to step up as leaders.
Yes.
And because I think, myself included, when I hear the program, right, the strategy, you always tend to just look at it as, okay, what are they doing now? What are they planning, right? And you feel remote to it in terms of how that's going to be actually executed.
Yes.
And actually that's the wrong way of looking at it, right?
Yeah. It's not their problem. It's our problem.
Yeah.
It's my problem.
Yeah.
It's my journey.
Yeah.
My digital journey.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Dato Wei, thank you very much for your 1 hour or plus. Definitely do come again as we see how our journey continues on the digital journey.
Yeah.
And then share a little bit more about your experiences, which is fascinating, right? I mean, you are one of the pioneers and the most successful pioneers that we have here in Malaysia. In terms of entrepreneurs, I think that is the dream for pretty much everybody, right? To start something up, go IPO, and then time to give back, right? You're in that full cycle already, and I think I commend you obviously for having such success, and still continue contributing back. That's amazing. I think that's how everybody should be.
Thank you very much, Amran. Yeah, I'm honored to be here and to share some thoughts with you as well as the rest of the friends.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, Dato Wei. Bye.
Okay, bye.